A woman stands in Judge Judy's courtroom, adjusts her non-prescription glasses with dramatic precision, and delivers an insult so arrogant, so shockingly condescending that even the seasoned bailiff recoils. Karen Elizabeth Thornberry. A 41-year-old self-proclaimed business consultant with a master's degree and an ego the size of Manhattan looks America's toughest judge straight in the eyes and says, "Your Honor, no disrespect, but you can't handle smart people who operate on a different level." The courtroom goes still complete silence. What happens next isn't just a legal decision. It's a takedown so calculated and devastating that it becomes the most viral Judge Judy moment in television history. Before we reveal the receipts Judge Judy used to tear apart Karen's entire performance of intelligence, I need you to smash that subscribe button right now. We're racing toward 600,000 subscribers. And this story about why real intelligence includes humility will remind you that education without pursued wisdom is just arrogance dressed up in vocabulary. If this story makes you believe, receipts always beat rhetoric, leave a comment below saying receipts, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Judge Judy's response became legendary and why Karen had to legally change her name and move to another state just to escape the humiliation. Here's a question that should haunt anyone who's ever used a degree as a weapon. When did having credentials start meaning you could disrespect everyone around you? When did intelligence become an excuse for cruelty instead of a responsibility for kindness? Because what happened to Karen Thornberry proves that looking smart on paper means nothing when someone comes with proof that you've been lying about everything. On the surface, the case seems simple, just another small claims dispute over unpaid graphic design work. Karen was suing her former business partner, Michelle Rodriguez, for $3,500, claiming Michelle stole her brilliant business idea for an online coaching program. But what the audience didn't know and what Karen had no idea about was that Judge Judy had spent 3 full days investigating Karen's background. 3 days pulling court records, checking business registrations, verifying credentials, and documenting every lie Karen had built her identity on. Judge Judy had receipts, not just a few receipts, a manila folder so thick it could double as a weapon, packed with evidence that would destroy Karen's credibility so completely she'd walk out of that courtroom a broken woman. Karen Elizabeth Thornberry wasn't just confident when she walked in. She radiated the kind of superiority that comes from years of using big words to intimidate people and credentials she didn't actually have to make. Others feel small. She carried a leather briefcase with the word boss embossed in gold, wore glasses perched stylishly on her head despite having perfect vision, and clutched a 3-ring binder stuffed with highlighted printouts, sticky notes, and tabbed sections like she was defending a doctoral dissertation instead of a small claims case. Her LinkedIn profile listed her as an entrepreneur and thought leader with an MBA from Boston University. Her Facebook page overflowed with motivational quotes about being the smartest person in the room and constant corrections of other people's grammar in the comments. She'd been banned from 3 neighborhood Facebook groups for what moderators called aggressive mansplaining, and even her homeowners association knew her as the woman who sent 10-page emails complete with footnotes and citations about parking violations. The case itself sounded like something Judge Judy had seen 1,000 times. Karen claimed she'd created an innovative concept for an online coaching programs, some revolutionary approach to digital marketing education that would transform the industry. She brought Michelle Rodriguez on board to handle the graphic design work, promising her a partnership and future profits once the business inevitably exploded. Michelle created logos, designed websites, produced social media graphics, and worked non-stop for 6 months while Karen kept promising that payment was coming soon. that they'd both be rich once the business took off. But the business never took off. There were no profits. There was no partnership agreement. There was no paperwork. There wasn't even a business registration with Michelle's name on it. There was only Karen using Michelle's talent for free. And when Michelle finally demanded payment for $2,800 worth of documented work, Karen did what people like her always do: she flipped the script. She sued Michelle instead, claiming Michelle had stolen her intellectual property and launched a competing business using Karen's original ideas. Michelle Rodriguez stood nervously at the defendant's table. She was a talented graphic designer who'd been manipulated by someone who weaponized vocabulary and fake credentials to make her feel smaller than she really was. Michelle had her portfolio, her invoices, and email chains showing Karen's constant promises. Next month, next quarter, once we get our first client. She had texts where Karen wrote, "Trust me, we'll be rich soon, and can you just do this one more thing?" She had evidence, but she also had fear. Because Karen had spent months convincing her that questioning someone with an MBA meant you were too stupid to understand complex business structures, Karen had no idea. Judge Judy was about to teach both of them what real intelligence actually looks like. It starts with bringing receipts, not attitude. Judge Judy opened the proceedings with her signature directness, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade sharpened by decades of slicing through nonsense. "Miss Thornberry, you're suing Miss Rodriguez for $3,500. Tell me what happened." It was a simple question, the kind she'd asked tens of thousands of times, designed to get straight to the facts without unnecessary drama. But Karen's response immediately made it clear this case was going to be anything but straightforward. Instead of answering the question, she launched into what can only be described as a performance and elaborate display of intellectual superiority. "Well, Your Honor, if I may provide some context that will illuminate the broader intellectual property issues at play here," she began, her tone dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for explaining basic concepts to children. She didn't just speak, she performed. She gestured dramatically with her hands, her voice rising and falling like she was giving a TED Talk to an audience she considered far beneath her level. Judge Judy's patience, legendary among regular viewers, but not unlimited, showed its first signs of strain. "I didn't ask for a dissertation, Miss Thornberry," Judge Judy cut in. "I asked what happened." The interruption was calm and professional, but anyone who knew Judge Judy could hear the warning in it. Karen, however, was so wrapped up in her own superiority that she completely missed the signal. She actually sighed audibly, dramatically, the kind of exasperated breath someone saves for incompetent customer service reps who don't understand the complexity of their situation. As I was attempting to explain before being interrupted, Karen continued, emphasizing the word as if Judge Judy had committed some unforgivable breach of etiquette by trying to keep her on track. "This case involves synergistic paradigm shifts, leveraging core competencies and value propositions that fundamentally transformed the digital coaching landscape." The gallery shifted uncomfortably. Even people with no legal training could sense something was going very wrong for Karen. But she remained blissfully unaware, protected by the armor of her own arrogance. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, her expression a mix of genuine curiosity and growing irritation. "In English, please," she said simply. Karen's response became the first major tactical error in what would quickly turn into a chain of catastrophic mistakes. "I am speaking English, Your Honor," she replied, barely hiding her contempt. "Perhaps, if you're unfamiliar with modern business terminology, I could simplify it for you." The implication hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Karen had just suggested that Judge Judy, a woman who had presided over more business Disputes then Karen had likely attended business. Classes didn't understand basic business concepts. The gallery gasped. Even Michelle, standing nervously at the defendant's table, looked stunned at how bold the insult was. Judge Judy's voice stayed steady, professional, cold as winter steel. "I understand business just fine, Miss Thornberry," she said. "What I don't understand is gibberish dressed up as expertise." Karen, unbelievably, doubled down. She pulled out her massive 3-ring binder, flipped to a carefully tabbed section covered in colored sticky notes, and tried to hand it to the bailiff. "Actually, Your Honor, if you'll reference the Harvard Business Review article I included on page 47, you'll see that my terminology is industry standard for thought leaders in the digital space." She was trying to educate Judge Judy in Judge Judy's own courtroom using articles she'd printed off the internet. Judge Judy didn't even glance at the binder. "I don't need your articles, Miss Thornberry. I need you to tell me what you did in your own words without the business school word salad." Karen rolled her eyes. The camera caught it perfectly, a moment of pure contempt that would be replayed millions of times across social media within hours of the episode airing. She turned slightly toward the gallery, her body language screaming that she was about to share a moment of mutual understanding with anyone who must surely be as frustrated as she was with a judge who just didn't get it. For those who may not be familiar with complex business structures, she began, making it crystal clear that Judge Judy was included in the group she believed needed simple words. Judge Judy cut her off immediately. "You'll face me when you're speaking in my courtroom, and you'll speak when I tell you to speak." Karen's response dripped with fake deference. "Of course, Your Honor. I'm simply trying to expedite this process efficiently for everyone's benefit." The questioning continued, and with every exchange, Karen dug herself deeper into a hole she didn't even realize she was creating. When Judge Judy asked about the specifics of the partnership arrangement, Karen launched into explanations about equity, structures, and profit-sharing models that existed only in her imagination. When Judge Judy asked whether she had paid Michelle for the design work, Karen admitted she hadn't, then justified it by claiming this was how startups work, and anyone with venture capital experience would understand the concept of sweat equity. Judge Judy's response was immediate and brutal. "That's not how the law works, Miss Thornberry." Karen sighed again, another theatrical performance of frustration, like she was dealing with someone incapable of grasping advanced concepts. She took off her glasses, pinched the bridge of her nose like an exhausted professor faced with especially dim students, and prepared to deliver the line that would destroy her life, looking directly at Judge Judy with a mix of pity and condescension. Karen spoke the words that would haunt her forever. "Your Honor, no disrespect, but this is clearly a case requiring an understanding of modern intellectual property law and complex business relationships. You can't handle smart people who operate on a different level. Maybe we need a judge who understands the 21st century business landscape." The silence afterward was absolute. Everyone in that courtroom understood they had just witnessed something unprecedented. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, and a smile crossed her face that made seasoned viewers' blood run cold. "Oh," she said softly, dangerously, "I can't handle smart people." Then Judge Judy reached for the thick manila folder sitting on her desk, the one that had been sitting there since before Karen even walked into the courtroom. The one she never noticed because she'd been too busy performing to pay attention to the details that actually mattered. "You know what, Miss Thornberry?" Judge Judy said, her voice carrying the tone longtime viewers recognized as the calm before a Category 5 hurricane. "You're absolutely right about one thing. This case does require understanding complex situations and dealing with smart people. So let me show you how someone who supposedly can't handle intelligence actually handles people who think they're smarter than everyone else. She opened the folder slowly, deliberately, every movement measured to build tension. And the camera caught the exact moment Karen's confident smirk started to falter at the edges. The folder was thick, impossibly thick for what was supposed to be a simple, small claims case about unpaid graphic design work. And that alone should have been Karen's first clue. She had walked into a trap, one built over 72 hours of careful investigation. Judge Judy pulled out the first document, held it up for the cameras, and began dismantling everything Karen had built her identity on. Let's start with your credentials, Miss Thornberry. Since you seem to think they qualify you to lecture me about intelligence, your LinkedIn profile lists you as having an MBA from Boston University. Is that correct? Karen, still clinging to her confidence like a life raft, answered immediately. Yes, Your Honor. That's absolutely correct. I earned my master's degree in business administration, which is why I understand these complex commercial relationships. Judge Judy's smile widened. Sharper now. More dangerous? Really? Because I have right here your actual transcript from Central State University, where you received a master's degree in business administration, not from Boston University. You attended Boston University for exactly one semester as a non-degree student in 2008. You took 3 classes, and then you started listing it on your resume as your alma mater. The color drained from Karen's face like water circling a drain. That's, Your Honor, that's just networking optimization. It's common practice in business to. Judge Judy cut her off with surgical precision. It's called lying, Miss Thornberry. It's called fraud. It's called misrepresenting your credentials to make yourself seem more impressive than you actually are. She paused just long enough for it to land. But we're just getting started, because I've got a whole folder full of receipts for someone who operates on a different level. Then she pulled out the second document, and with it came the complete destruction of Karen's self-proclaimed success story. You call yourself an entrepreneur and a thought leader, correct? You've started multiple successful ventures. Karen's voice had lost some of its earlier swagger, but she tried to keep the act alive. Yes, I've launched several innovative business concepts. That Judge Judy didn't let her finish. She began reading from the document, her voice clear and merciless. 2015, Thornberry Consulting LLC dissolved after 8 months due to failure to file taxes, resulting in a state tax lien of $4,200. 2017, Empower Women Worldwide, a multi-level marketing scheme selling essential oils, where you were sued by 3 of your own downline members for misrepresentation. 2018, Karen's Coaching Corner, a website that operated for 6 months before PayPal froze your account due to customer complaints and demanded refunds. 2019, Mindset Mastery Academy, where you collected deposits for a coaching program that never launched and had to issue refunds after several clients threatened legal action. 2021, Digital Success System lasted exactly 4 months before you abandoned it and moved on to your next venture. Judge Judy looked up from the papers, her expression pure contempt. These are your successful ventures, Miss Thornberry. 5 failed businesses in 6 years, multiple lawsuits, frozen accounts, and a consistent pattern of taking people's money for services you never deliver. Karen was stammering now, the persona she'd walked in with collapsing like a sandcastle at high tide. Those were learning experiences. Your Honor, market conditions weren't favorable. The economy was. Judge Judy lifted her hand. One motion. Silence, and silence is exactly what she got. They were failures, Miss Thornberry. Failures that hurt real people who trusted you. And now you have the audacity to sue someone who actually did work for you because you never paid her. Then, the third set of documents came out of the folder, and this was where Judge Judy delivered the knockout punch that would echo across social media for years. Let me tell you about your pattern of behavior. Miss Thornberry, because I pulled your court records. Did you know court cases are public record? That anyone with enough motivation can find out exactly how many times you've been sued. Karen's eyes widened real fear now, because she knew what was coming, and there was no stopping it. Judge Judy started reading through Karen's legal history with the steady precision of a prosecutor presenting evidence to a jury. 2016. You were sued by graphic designer Maria Chin for non-payment of $1,200. You lost. 2018. Another designer, James Patterson, sued you for $890. You settled to avoid judgment. 2020. Web developer Travis Morgan sued you for $2,400 for a website you never paid for. Judgment against you. She didn't even look up before continuing. And here's my personal favorite. 2019. You were the defendant in a small claims case brought by a woman named Ashley Brennan. She attended one of your business workshops, shared her business plan, took extensive notes, and 3 months later discovered you had launched an identical business using her exact model. Judge Judy paused, letting it settle over the room like heavy snow. Double quotes, Ms. Brennan sued you and won $3,000 in damages because the judge found you deliberately stole her intellectual property. Then, she looked right at Karen. So tell me again, Miss Thornberry, who's stealing from whom in this courtroom? The courtroom erupted in whispers and gasps. Karen looked like she might physically shrink where she stood. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. She pulled out one more document, this one clearly printed from a website, complete with side-by-side images visible even from the gallery. Now, let's talk about this revolutionary business concept you claim Miss Rodriguez stole from you. This online coaching program, you say, was your original creation. She held it up so the cameras could capture it clearly. This is from a website called Coach Academy Pro, a platform that sells pre-made course templates to aspiring coaches. Your original concept is template number 23, available for purchase for $47. She tapped the page. I have a side-by-side comparison of your outline and the template. They're identical, word for word. Her voice hardened. You didn't create anything, Miss Thornberry. You bought a template, sent it to Miss Rodriguez so she could make it look professional. And now you're suing her for theft because she used a similar template for her own legitimate business. Judge Judy's voice rose, sharp with righteous anger. You didn't think I'd check. You called me too stupid to understand modern business, and you didn't think I'd spend 5 minutes on Google. And the transformation in Karen Thornberry was visible too. Everyone in the courtroom manned to the millions who would later watch this moment replay. Everywhere the woman who had strutted in with her boss briefcase and that smug, condescending smile was now visibly shaking. Her hands gripped the podium so tightly her knuckles turned white, and Judge Judy still wasn't finished. What came next wasn't just illegal. Ruling it was the psychological takedown that turned the case from courtroom drama into a cultural moment. Miss Thornberry, Judge Judy said, her voice carrying the weight of 25 years and tens of thousands of cases dealing with people exactly like her. I want you to understand something very clearly. I've been doing this for a quarter century. I've seen every kind of scammer, every type of liar, every breed of con artist who thought they could manipulate the system. But you represent a special category of person that I find particularly offensive. She leaned forward, eyes locked on Karen's with an intensity So sharp, the camera operators instinctively zoomed in to catch every detail. You're the type of person who weaponizes intelligence. You use big words to confuse people. You use credentials. You don't actually have to intimidate them. You prey on talented, creative people like Miss Rodriguez people with real skills. You make them feel stupid so they, work for free while you take credit for their labor. Karen tried to interrupt, her voice cracking with desperation. Your Honor, that's not fair. I never meant to. Judge Judy's hand went up like a traffic cop stopping a speeding car. The authority in that gesture was absolute. Fair. You want to talk to me about fairness? Judge Judy snapped. You stood in my courtroom and told me I can't handle smart people. You implied I'm too old and too stupid to understand your complex business world. Her voice dropped colder. Sharper. I'm 81 years old, Miss Thornberry. I've presided over 20,000 cases. I've forgotten more about law and human nature than you will ever learn about anything in your entire life. Then her voice rose again, gaining force with every word. And it took me exactly 30 seconds of looking at your paperwork to see through every lie you've built your identity on. So I'll ask you again, who can't handle smart people? The courtroom went still. Judge Judy's voice filled the space with an authority that made even the bailiff stand straighter. Who can't handle smart people, Miss Thornberry? Was it me or was it you who couldn't handle the fact that someone finally did their homework and brought the receipts to expose you? That's when the tears started. Not the quiet, dignified kind, but the desperate, ugly tears of someone watching their entire facade collapse on national television. Karen's makeup began, running in dark streaks down her cheeks. Her designer outfit, chosen to project success, now looked like a costume at a party she was never actually invited to. Her leather portfolio, once stuffed with printed articles meant to impress, lay scattered across the floor, pages everywhere, the physical proof of her shattered credibility. Please. Your Honor, Karen sobbed, all superiority gone. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any disrespect. I made a mistake. Please don't make me pay. I can't afford it. The desperation in her voice was almost painful to hear, especially from someone who had walked in, bragging about business ventures and superior understanding of modern commerce. Judge Judy watched the meltdown with the detached interest of a scientist, observing a completely predictable reaction. Oh. Now you're sorry, Judge Judy said. Now you want to show respect. Where was this humility when you were wagging your finger at me and telling me I don't understand 21st century business? Then the ruling came down with the precision and finality of a guillotine. Miss Thornberry, your case is dismissed. And not only dismissed. I'm ruling in favor of Miss Rodriguez's counterclaim. She is awarded the full $2,800 for the graphic design work you never paid for. Additionally, I'm awarding her $700 in damages for the emotional distress of being manipulated by someone who used fake credentials and big words to make her feel inferior, plus court costs of $250. She didn't pause. Your total judgment today is $3,750. Karen gasped like she'd been physically hit, her voice rising into a desperate whine. But I don't have that kind of money. How am I supposed to? Judge Judy's response was colder than a January morning in Alaska. Then you'll get a second job, or a third job, or a fourth jobby, 'cause unlike you, most people actually work for their money instead of stealing other people's labor and calling it entrepreneurship. Then Judge Judy added the final blow. Furthermore, I'm recommending that a transcript of these proceedings be sent to the Better Business Bureau. And I'm giving Miss Rodriguez explicit permission to share this episode on every social media platform she chooses. The gavel came down with a crack that felt like it echoed forever, sealing Karen's fate and creating a moment that would soon spread like wildfire. Within hours of the episode airing, clips flooded YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, every corner of the internet where people gathered to watch arrogance get humbled. The titles wrote themselves. Judge Judy destroys Karen with receipts. Woman tells Judge Judy she can't handle smart people, instantly regrets it. Most satisfying courtroom takedown ever. Comment sections exploded with thousands of people sharing their own experiences with fake experts who use credentials and vocabulary like weapons. Karen's name became shorthand for the kind of arrogance that always comes before the fall. Her LinkedIn vanished within 3 days. Her Facebook page disappeared within a week. Local news in her hometown picked up the story. Former clients came forward with their own accounts of being manipulated by someone who made them feel stupid for questioning her methods. She had to move out of her apartment when neighbors recognized her from the show. Within a year, she legally changed her name and relocated to a different state, but the internet doesn't forget. Her moment of supreme arrogance lives forever in the Digital Hall of Fame for hubris destroyed by homework. Judge Judy's handling of the case became legendary not only among longtime viewers, but among legal professionals, business ethics professors, and anyone who's ever been talked down to by someone wielding a degree like a weapon. The phrase "smart people bring receipts, stupid people bring attitude" ended up on coffee mugs, shirts, and motivational posters. The episode became required viewing in business schools as a lesson in why humility matters more than credentials. Meanwhile, Michelle Rodriguez's graphic design business flourished after the exposure, with clients seeking her out specifically because they'd seen her vindicated on national television. Later, Michelle said in an interview that Judge Judy taught her something she'd never forget. Real intelligence doesn't need to announce itself with big words and fake credentials. It quietly does the work and lets the results speak for themselves. Hit that subscribe button if you believe receipts always beat arrogance. Smash the like button if you think Judge Judy delivered exactly the justice Karen needed. Comment receipts below if this story reminded you that education without humility is just a vocabulary looking for victims. Share this with anyone who's ever been made to feel stupid by someone who confused a degree with wisdom. Because this proves that when you disrespect people who've actually done their homework, they'll teach you a lesson you won't forget. Karen Thornberry learned the hardest way possible. You should never tell Judge Judy she can't handle smart people, because she'll handle you so thoroughly, you'll need to change your name and move states just to escape the humiliation. Receipts brought. Case closed. Justice served.